as I said, were largely completed, achieved, and the reportage made. But the most important aspect for me, being in the finance ministry, is it was achieved entirely with India's own funds. So if greater ambitious goals are set for COP26, and we are looking at that we achieved similarly as we did in COP21, there are several more challenges. Even more so, given the global circumstances. I've said this several times before, but I think Global Fintech Fest would be also an appropriate forum for me to recall that statement which I've made earlier. India planned to have natural gas as a transitional gas. Energy source, transitional energy source to be derived from natural gas. We were moving very fast on solar and wind energy, renewable energy. We are still going ahead with our commitments for renewable energy. But the transitional energy source, natural gas, has become more expensive. And not just for India, for every country in the world, that many countries are going back to coal. India also will have to get back to coal at least somewhat, so that we are able to keep the base level of our energy requirement sustained. So it's sustaining a base level of energy requirement, slightly different from the sustainability debate. But I would like to confine myself to sustainable financial world. Creating a sustainable financial world is what you want me to speak on. I'm talking less, therefore, on global, green, and inclusive. Inclusive, yes, global and green, as I said, is a vast area, and I'd like to definitely talk on it, but some other time. Now I focus only on creating a sustainable financial world. India started this financial world, which is going to be all-inclusive, and at the same time, depending a lot more on sustainable ways of doing it. So the first thing on that is we have led the way in bringing an inclusive financial world by making sure that financial services will be accessed through the India stack, and that itself for 4 different layers. It's a very good approach to look at financial inclusion on the through the route of how many people have got covered, how many poor have got covered, what's the kind of amount which flows to their accounts through DBT, how many have kept a good reasonable balance so that their credit scores go up, and so on. But I also want to bring you this dimension whereby we say the inclusive nature of financial inclusion program of the government is very well established at various different levels. The levels which are being covered here are one at the presence-less layer. The person need not be present. His identity is established. He can definitely be recognized for what he is, that unique human being, unique individual for whom the service is being restored or services being extended. So you find the presence-less layer level in which Aadhaar has served a cause. The next one is the paperless layer, which is enabled through, again, an Aadhaar, eKYC, e-sign, and also the digi-locker level. So you saw the presence-less layer, then you're seeing the paperless layer. The third layer is the cashless layer, which is the UPI, the AEPS, and ABPS, which show that it is possible to lift it one more layer and make it paperless. In a way, not so much on the financial side, but also the Ayushman Bharat is also bringing a paperless, cashless way of dealing with individuals' health, where he doesn't have to have upfront money out of the pocket money to be spending on his health. So in health as well, as much as in finance, that one layer of cashless layer, which is the third layer from the bottom, which has brought in a revolution. And the final thing, which has happened as of September 2021, is the account aggregator framework, which has been brought in, where the consent layer comes in. The consent layer, which will have to have, not always, in a way, opacity is good. But when you're bringing in consent layer into a digital framework, which is through the account aggregator, well recognized by the Reserve Bank of India, you have a certain opacity which gets cleared only on the consent given by the individual, data privacy. So the four levels in which we have brought in inclusion and in a sustainable fashion is very unique to India, and that is what is capturing the eyes of the world. Countries today like Singapore, Bhutan, France's Lycra, which is a network there, and also many others are now seeing the use for RuPay cards and also for the entire UPI payment. India's stack, particularly the payment stack, has been very well recognized, and people are looking for sharing their thoughts with India. And many of our bilateral engagements with our counterparts today focus on this. And therefore, the Global FinTech Fest in India will be better off for having a lot more information shared on these scores. Now, the digitalization of financial services actually has made many unbanked Indian citizens who are remaining in the informal layers of the economy, helped by middlemen and so on, today come over to more formal sources of credit, formal sources of accessing financial services. And therefore, many unemployed youth have benefited from it, and the casual workers have now seen the virtue of getting into the formal financial terrain. And that is why you find suddenly an increase in the extent to which UPI is being used, not just in urban metropolitan areas, but also in tier 2, tier 3 cities. Financial technology, therefore, today plays a very critical role in India's financial inclusion schemes, financial inclusion program of the government. So the whole idea of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas is going to be better achieved when we are able to use our technology to help us through. A few data, which are stunning figures, which for any other country would have been a story of the impossible, the story of that kind of scaling up, which otherwise is just not achieved elsewhere. India and its population, India and its people who are ready to adapt technology have shown that set of achievements, which I would want to specifically draw your attention to. Aadhaar numbers which have been issued to Indian residents is 131.68 crore Aadhaar numbers. I just want you to grapple for a moment, if grapple is the right word, with the numbers that I'm reading before you. 131.68 crore Aadhaar numbers. UPI has been instrumental in promoting digital payment in India. And what has it achieved? It has achieved a value of $940 billion during 2021, which is equivalent to 30% of our GDP. In 5 years since its launch, the CAGR growth is 160% in value and has eclipsed all other payment forms. Now, the scale of these things is what I want you all to appreciate. I'm sure many of you all are already aware of it. As of 2022 July, there are 338 banks live on UPI platforms. 338 banks in India which are live on UPI platform. In July 2022 alone, in that month alone, the UPI registered 6.288 billion transactions valuing 10.62 trillion Indian rupees. The scale of this achievement is something which is worth repeating. NPCI is, of course, taking the UPI internationally, helping countries also to create their own payment systems and networks. It is also making the cross-border payments easier, and by means of UPI or RuPay card, acceptance and UPI integration for remittances. I've already told you that Singapore, Bhutan, and we've signed an MOU also with France, Lycra Network. These are all now expanding the scope of the India stack, particularly in the payment arena. The account aggregator network, again, is going to revolutionize the credit flow towards our medium and small industries, and they need to have sustainable sources of finance. Here, one real-time information which is important for us is this account aggregator system went live in September 2021. As of September 2022, just within 12 months, 52 RBI regulated entities, including banks and NBFCs, are on the account aggregator network. So apart from banking sector, insurance sector, pension sector, the players are also joining the platform. Other players are also joining the platform. Number of accounts enabled on the AA network, account aggregator network, stands at 1.1 billion. Again, the scale at which account aggregator has grown in the last 12 months is a wealth of opportunity lies there for the global fintech people to see what more can be done creatively if people have come on board. 1.1 billion people are already on the account aggregator mode. Of course, the inclusive digital highway, which has been created through the ONDC, Open Network for Digital Commerce, Open Credit Enablement Network, OCEN, are taking the digital platforms in the name of financial inclusion and getting businesses to transact on them, so that there's just going to be a very high potential for formalization of the economy and the possibilities which emerge for fintech in that. The regulators in India, the Indian regulators, have not been behind in this revolution that is taking place. I like to underline here that the Indian regulators started emphasizing on green and sustainable practices even from 2007. However, it was only in 2015 that the RBI included lending to social infrastructure and small renewable energy projects within the priority sector lending. And that is very important because once it comes under the priority sector lending, it becomes a lot more open for many sections which otherwise cannot access it. The terms are also very favorable. In September 2020, the Reserve Bank of India also released a revised priority sector lending, a set of guidelines wherein loan limits for renewable energy have been doubled. So that itself is again a beautiful interplay of the financial sector with the sustainable campaigns that we run. RBI also joined the network for greening the financial system, NGFS as it is referred to. Reserve Bank of India on 27th July 2022 released a discussion paper on climate risk and sustainable finance to help regulated entities to deal with issues arising out of alarming the warming of planet. Now, if this is RBI, SEBI also was one of the early adopters of sustainability reporting for listed entities and had mandatory ESG related disclosures So as per the business responsibility report, for the top 100 listed entities by market capitalization, and that's already in effect. The IFSCA has also taken steps to develop comprehensive regulatory framework for listing of bonds, the green bonds, social bonds, the ESG bonds, sustainability bonds, and also sustainability linked bonds. The regulatory sandbox mechanism which the RBI has provided a structured and institutionalized framework through which the fintech companies are able to test their new products, new innovations before scaling them up. So this has actually helped in testing it in a controlled environment, and post that you're able to scale up rapidly so that markets can get the benefit and you can accelerate your product innovations. Now, there are opportunities for fintech players to play the role in a sustainable financial environment. It's interesting that the breakthrough agenda in COP26 in Glasgow, endorsed by 42 countries, this agenda has been endorsed by 42 countries, including India, that is. It would be a game changer which aims to accelerate the development and deployment of clean technologies and sustainable solutions in areas such as clean power, road transport, steel, and hydrogen. There are specific opportunities in green finance, which is a financial arrangement for specific use of funds for environmentally sustainable development products. So for green financing purposes, new financial instruments such as green bonds, carbon market instruments are all being drafted. As a part of my budget announcement in 22-23 towards sustainable infrastructure, I had announced to issue sovereign green bonds for mobilizing resources for green infrastructure. So fintech may locate promising growth opportunities in India's demographic transformation, and with some players who can opt for full service offering to boost access for specific underserved demographic. For instance, I'll just give you one example and leave it there. SBI, the State Bank of India, has launched YONO, Y-O-N-O, Krishi, YONO Krishi. And it was launched in 2019, a digital platform which it is to serve farmers that offers specialized loans such as crop loans, insurance and investment opportunities, as well as a universal platform where farmers can see live prices for crops which they have for sale and buy inputs and make sales directly. So the opportunities are galore. I have just given you one example of what the State Bank of India has done. They are after all fintech innovations which have gone into banking scheme, and the banks are also ready and looking for more fintech innovative offers which will come by their way. I think today the fintech festival is a good way of showcasing India's capability. It's time that all of us partner together with India in its goal towards a sustainable development route towards achieving greater financial mobility, and also achieved through the financial technology integration developed India by 2047. So thank you very much, Gopalakrishnan, for having given me this opportunity to put a few ideas across to all the participants who are before me on the screen. I wish the program all success. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Finance Minister Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji. If you have, oh, she is not able to hear. Can you hear me now? Okay. Ma'am, if you have a couple of minutes more or 5 minutes more, can I ask one question and maybe invite one or two people from the audience to ask a question? So from my
Yes,
side,
please.
yeah, from my side, you talked about the various initiatives we have taken together as government, regulator, industry, especially on the India stack, the digitization of the economy, talked about how the architecture is built as a sustainable, inclusive, and affordable architecture. One key component, I believe, is trust. Can you tell us very briefly, how do we ensure that the trust in the various players, industry, business, regulator, government, and the security aspect of financial transactions can continuously be enhanced? Or if you have any suggestions for industry to look at this, we would like to listen to you.
I don't want to sound cliched, but distance brings distrust. So cut the distance down, have greater engagement with government. This is the government, whether it's a prime minister or any one of us in the minister group, council of ministers or Niti Aayog, all of us are constantly available for engagement, discussions, exchange of ideas. So the greater the engagement, the greater the trust which gets built up. So I think one sure short way of retaining and building on trust is to keep the constant engagement going.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions? Anybody? Yes, please. Can you bring a microphone there? Please identify yourself and be very brief and make it a question, short question.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm Dinesh Arora. I've been a banker for nearly 40 years, so it's kind of a semi-retired life. A small, crisp question is, with so much having been done on India Stack, I think, yes, at these forums, we get to know about what has been done by India. But within the country, I mean, could there be the finance ministry or Reserve Bank play a more wider role in reaching out to the local populace, India-wide, region-wise, so that we ourselves become more aware about what India has been doing, rather than only listening at these forums or maybe being talked about international level. Thank you.
So, ma'am, the question was about the government, the Reserve Bank of India, reaching out to all the all the people in the country so that they become more aware of the various schemes and initiatives by the government.
I think both the government and the Reserve Bank are doing some, and of course there is scope for always greater engagement, greater building awareness, and that's a continuous exercise.
Yes, the lady there.
Hello, ma'am. My name is Alka and I'm a chartered accountant. I have a question. I'm representing a woman from Akola whom I met during an MSME exhibition. And she told me that when she started out, she never got a loan. After 20 years also, she's never got a loan. So what should I tell her? Because she's in the business of manufacturing and selling Nawari sari. She needs 30 lakh rupees right now. So what should I tell her?
So, ma'am,
that she should approach a bank.
In these 20 years, in her 20 years of her business experience, she's never got a loan from a bank. She kept on fighting with the banks. Till date, she's never got a loan.
Would you please send me her details and I will ensure that a bank will entertain her? I find it difficult to believe, but never mind.
Yeah, back there. Yes.
I'm Kenzo Fujise from Japan, a professor of Tokyo University. So I would like to know about how to coordinate the national regulation system. Now Japan changed the legal system related to fintech. However, so our discussion about the fintech regulation very domestic. So how do you coordinate international regulation in the terms of fintech, please?
I'm not sure I've got the complete sense of the question, but on the word coordination and on the question coming from a foreign